I want to look at something today which we haven't done in this ministry, and you're probably wondering why, but quite honestly, when you see what the camera's going to go across to, it's something which I think is very important because it shows the influence of religion on the countries of the world, and I'm talking about stamps. Now, James can pan across here. I was able a few weeks ago to pick up an assortment of stamps from a flea market. Nearly passed them over, got them very, very cheaply, but I was very caught by the person who collected these and what they signified and what they meant. So we'll try and get through them all if we can. The first one, as you can see here, is the 40th anniversary. This is a Dutch stamp from Denmark of the reformist Hans Tausen, who was a pupil of Martin Luther. And you can see there, 1936 this stamp came out. Here's a man who's very much in the news at the moment, Cardinal Newman. Pope's coming over to appoint Cardinal Newman a saint of the Catholic Church, and that's put out by Era, or Ireland. Another interesting stamp here from Spain, Pope Pius XI and King Alphonse XII of Spain. Not quite sure what the similarity is there, and the fact that King Alphonse died at 28, his father, King Alphonse XIII, was the King of Spain during the Spanish Civil War. I'm not sure where Pius XI comes into this, but can you see the triple tiara on his head? Can you see that? Very, very interesting. They don't wear those anymore, just as well. Malta, shipwreck of St. Paul, and you can see that 1960. There's Paul standing there, sailors drowning, and Paul standing there in the shipwreck. For our American viewers, here's something which you'll probably know more about than I did. I'd never heard of this, but this is the Religious Freedom in America. Came out in 1957, and I did Google this to find out that it was the first act of religious freedom in America. And you're losing it now, aren't you? But here it is, commemorated on a lovely stamp. Can you see that? 1957. Colombia, Order of St. Vincent de Paul, we'll come to in a minute. In Portugal, their saint is Saint Elizabeth. You can see her there. Two very ordinary stamps of Spain here. Down to Vincent de Paul again. And we come to the lovely country of Monaco. I went there some years ago. Beautiful country in the south of France. Vincent de Paul again, a so-called saint of the Catholic Church. But as Paul tells us, we're all saints if we're born again. Now Monaco, you can see the Red Cross stamp there. Caritas. The interesting about Monaco is that the same family have run this for about the last 500 years, the family of Grimaldi. And next to them, there he is, Pius XII. But look at these symbols here, these Masonic symbols, the way they've been placed. Is this coincidence, or should we be reading more into it? Pius XII, who probably would have been a saint years ago, but all these scandals of the Second World War and the betrayal of the Jews, and I've long felt that the Holy Catholic Church, as they call themselves, the See of Peter, the end result was to have the extermination of the Jews, or certainly to hinder the advancement of the State of Israel, and they haven't succeeded. Some very interesting stamps then, tacked on the end here, Bandsman and Banner, Salvation Army. And the only thing that interests me was that when the Ecumenical Council finished, 1962-64, one of the first churches in England that joined that was the Salvation Army. And this was the army, the Salvation Army, that had been founded by the great preacher, born again, William Booth. Some very interesting stamps there. Now I'm going to move across quickly here. These concentration camp memorials put out by the old East German Republic, as it was called then. And most of these stamps have never been franked. Isn't that interesting? Someone's bought these, put them into an album. And there you can see Sachsenhausen. We went there some years ago, Sachsenhausen concentration camp. Buchenwald, Ravensbrück. And one of the men who did go to Buchenwald concentration camp was this man here. Now he's one of 6 resistance fighters that East Germany put out. I must admit that I don't know any of these men, but I know this gentleman here, Paul Schneider, who was a Lutheran pastor, who stood up to the Nazis in the 30s, suffered very greatly for his belief. He would not bow down to the Nazi regime. He would not have swastikas in his church, and he would not say, "Heil Hitler." He said it was all demonic. This is what the Roman emperors did. Paul Schneider, I was very impressed with him, and I wrote a short television script about him back in the 60s, which Some of you may remember we did a little feature on it a few years ago, but I was very pleased to see he came out on this stamp here. Now, all of this is religion, and it seems the Catholic Church seems to have a monopoly, doesn't it? Looking at some of these stamps here, apart from the Reformist here, all of them are tied in with Catholicism. They've even hijacked Paul. We don't like the saint bit. We never use him to call him Saint Paul in this ministry. To us, he is Paul the Apostle. But I'm very interested in these Masonic symbols here, as I say. Am I reading too much into it? Or is it just a way of putting out stamps? I've never seen stamps before with this pyramid Masonic aspect. They're normally this traditional part here. And right at the back, came across this little pack here. See, it's all sealed. And this is the religion of communism. Now, again from the Republic of East Germany, you can see that Deutsche Demokrat Republic, as it was the old East Germany before the wall came down. But here's two of the founding fathers of it, Friedrich Engels and Karl Marx. Wherever you go in East Germany, you always saw these two men. Marx, of course, founder of communism. Engels, I suppose, the man who paid all the bills, because without Engels, Marx probably wouldn't have succeeded. And further down, we come down to Marx and Lenin, Vladimir Lenin, who took over after the Russian Revolution. Bloodthirsty men, all of them, although their ideas fed into the ideas that Lenin took for the Bolsheviks to take over through Russia and spread throughout the world. A couple of East German leaders here, not sure who they are. A little bit of Masonic handshake by the looks at the thumb over the third finger. And here you see the sports drone here, and right at the bottom, the swastika. Can you see that? Someone's got a bit of a sense of humour there. They put the symbol of fascism in with the symbol of communism, another religion. Of course, this empire is long gone. The Third Reich, supposed to last 1,000 years, gone. The communist aspect of the Soviet Union, that's gone now, although much of it is still through the Secret Service and the government. There's still heavily communism there. But these other countries, you can see the promotion of Roman Catholicism through Newman, Pius XI, Achille Ratti and Alphonse XII and Paul there. It just shows, doesn't it, that religion is always trying to get in somewhere. And particularly the easiest way is postage stamps. Everybody needs stamps. And what I found interesting about these, apart from this one at the bottom here has been stamped, and this one here, they've never been stamped. See, these unmarked. And especially these ones, these stamps here. Now whether they're commemorative stamps or not, I don't know. But it'll be interesting to see what happens when the Antichrist comes, won't it? Because instead of seeing a picture of our Queen on our stamps here, and in America I think you have your President, we'll have pictures of the Antichrist, and people accept it so willingly because his turn is yet to come. And all of these men, this man, and certainly these guys here in the old communist regime, have all helped to bring in the role of the Antichrist, to make this a one world order. From bloodthirsty Lenin to millionaire Friedrich Engels, who made his money up in Manchester, he owned sweatshops and factories, to Karl Marx, who really never did a day's work in his life. All of their ideas have perpetrated and influenced the world as it is now. The Obama regime to the Labour governments of all through the world, they're all influenced by socialism and Marxism and so forth. All except for this man here, who did see through them, the remarkable Paul Schneider. Schneider wasn't taken in any of this. He preached the gospel, he suffered for it, he was a martyr of the faith. These men, probably all tied in with different churches, didn't kowtow to Nazism and paid the final price. But Paul Schneider, who died tragically in Buchenwald concentration camp, and you can see it there. I had hoped we'd find Dachau here. We went there a few years ago, but this has come from some private collection. I hope you find it interesting. We thought it was very topical at the moment, the fact that Newman is to be canonised when the Pope comes over, and we will be here to see the Pope, to protest against this wave of Catholicism that's coming into this country. So excuse me, so from this ministry, I hope you find it interesting. I found it interesting. If you know a bit more about some of these stamps here, let us know. From this ministry, as always, thank you, and Maranatha.